Due to YNW Melly's fame in the music industry, we're now beginning to see other rappers getting involved in his court case, including new evidence proving some rappers may even be involved. Here's what you need to know. We would see Bryson go on to report, Fredo Bang drops new song and music video today in support of his friend YNW Melly called Free Melly. In the song, Fredo Bang speaks on the 3-year-long attempt to subpoena him to testify by the prosecutor, where he sings a line stating, "Talking about that subpoena, tell that lady I ain't get it yet." The lady he is referring to is the main prosecutor. She's allegedly been trying to sit Fredo Bang down for a deposition for 3 years now. He has never responded once. It's also the same lady who mentioned this about Fredo Bang earlier on in the trial.
And Chris Thomas are. So what you're also going to find out is while Mr. Devins is out there on the side of the road, 4 in the morning, 4:42 specifically, he sends a drop pin, digital homing beacon, to his current location, to one of his friends, Frederick Gibbons. Frederick Gibbons is also involved in the music industry, and he asked to be picked up. Frederick Gibbons then, about 11 minutes later, is sent another drop pin where Mr. Devins has moved a couple of meters. What you're going to find out as well, though, is these digital leashes, they have more than just phone calls.
The same prosecutor would also go through YNW Melly's cell phone photos, trying to find evidence, and even would mention Melly's connection with rappers such as Young Thug, Lil Boosie, Travis Scott, Kodak Black, Lil Durk, and many more. However, alongside the Melly trial going on, YNW Juvy's family has been working on a lawsuit against Melly and his company. This new lawsuit against Melly seeks millions in damages, as the lawsuit argues that YNW Melly, his music manager, and his mother benefited from the passing of YNW Juvy while they were using the hashtag Free Melly to promote his music. It then states, with continued financial gain and notoriety, prospects, and more, tensions began to develop between members of the YNW group, as they would go on to highlight the video of YNW Melly's mother talking back to Sakchaser.
Show me text messages from Sakchaser, all her friends, and all these people, like he's about this life. But I'm saying, like, who you ever out at? What you ever did? You couldn't even take charge. If you don't sit your down and don't ever come for me, because my credentials is real. It ain't even a joke. So don't ever try to come for me, because I don't even play them type of games. Like, what you got that I ain't got? Oh, you your look. I got big. At the end of the day, Melly is my child.
It then goes on to mention what they believe happened to Juvy, stating, and I quote, YNW Melly was seated in the left rear seat of the vehicle where he affected Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvy. Following the incident, during the critical period where it was still possible to save Juvy and Sakchaser, defendants YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen instead changed their clothing and then staged the drive-by. In doing so, they destroyed evidence of their crime and even manufactured evidence to support the staged drive-by by using a firearm multiple times in and around the Jeep. It continues further reading, YNW Melly's manager, Jameson Francis, and his mother, Jamie King, were involved in the cover-up to varying degrees, including hiding evidence. Then the most incriminating evidence for Melly's manager would be when it read, defendant 100K Track assisted YNW Melly and Bortlen with the collection and disposal of the firearm that was used in the crime. Also included in the lawsuit is a concerning video of YNW Melly and Bortlen, where it would report the Stranger Things jacket YNW Melly is wearing in this video, just hours after the crime, is the same one YNW Juvy had on when they left the recording studio early on that morning. YNW Bortlen is wearing the one Sakchaser had on too. Crazy, isn't it?
See him? Melly still turned regardless of what happened this early morning. He's still out here being very positive. Turned still. Hey! The dog still turned, regardless of what happened. You already know.
Not only are they copying the clothing that Juvy and Sakchaser had on, but YNW Melly's also seen dancing around looking like he's in great spirits and not even really caring about what situation just occurred to his two best friends. This is precisely how YNW Juvy's father described Melly's behavior when he was talking to him a day after his son's passing, leading him to believing YNW Melly was the guilty one right away.
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son on October 26th when I first heard the story, because his explanation when I finally talked to him and Cortland on a FaceTime, their response and how they was reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they was grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits. They wasn't reacting to, they act like they didn't have to take a loss at all. That's how I took it. And then when I was talking to them, I still had in the back of my mind that something's not right.
While YNW Juvy's father was speaking out online about his son, we would even see YNW Juvy's mother appear in the courtroom, confirming where her son, as well as where YNW Melly were sitting in the vehicle on that night.
Can you state your name, your full legal name for the jury?
I'm Leon Phillips.
Okay. And are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I am.
How so?
I'm his mother.
And who is that?
Christopher Thomas.
Pause it at 2:19:15. Ms. Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that gray Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Which seat, if you can identify for the jury?
He got in the back seat on the right hand side.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Jamel.
And Jamel, is that the defendant, Jamel Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
The families of YNW Juvy and YNW Sakchaser are not happy with how badly the prosecution have been dealing with this court case. As I'm fully aware, everyone remembers Danny Polo, the mystery man who had to wear a shiesty mask while doing his testimony. That same man had to remove his mask during the second day of his testimony. While removing his mask, YNW Melly's reaction to it almost seems as if YNW Melly knew exactly who this man was.
Yes, sir. You can take off your mask.
Yes, sir.
Over. State's objection, Your Honor, based on the previous issues.
Jury entering.
However, here's where the family of Juvy and Sakchaser get angry, as without even realizing, Danny Polo's entire testimony made YNW Melly look innocent in the courtroom, as he revealed that YNW Melly was being contacted by team leaders in the streets. However, YNW Melly didn't answer a single text message, and instead was ignoring them, almost revealing Melly was never in a street team.
Now, Melly's defense is now entering into cross-examination of Danny Polo. And what Danny is admitting on the stand, now Danny Polo had admitted that YNW Melly was actually being recruited by two different sets. And based off of the text message thread between the different individuals trying to recruit Melly, Melly was not replying. Melly stated weeks later that he was so busy doing radio interviews and shows that he just didn't have time to reply. And if you go back and read the text messages, those recruiters were basically begging Melly to reply back. And he didn't. Because Melly was an up-and-coming rapper who had a ton of money and ambition, and any of these different groups would love to have him under their roster. Because Melly wasn't interested in being a part he was being labeled as somebody who was false flagging. It's possible that it was Shine that did the drive, all because Melly didn't want to be a part of their group.
This completely disproves the prosecution's theory of YNW Melly doing this crime so then he can get up in the ranks within a street team. This would end up going off in a viral report online, which states, "The prosecutor is increasingly showing that this case really depends on very little evidence. All these messages are irrelevant, it shows nothing at all. No motive, no mention of the crime, it is really just nonsense." As every prosecution witnessed that the prosecutors took to the stand to try to make YNW Melly look guilty all ended up doing the opposite. As an example, an FBI agent took the stand. His job is to specialize in cell phone data research, where the report goes on to state YNW Melly's lawyers questions FBI agent that did analysis on Melly's phone at the time of the crime.
Based on the information, you can't really tell the court precisely which locations these phones are following in Kenya.
One of the limitations of cellular analysis is that you can only say a general area where the device would be at a given time.
All right. So even with the general analysis, all of the stuff that we've gone through for about 4 or 5 hours, at the end of the day, you can never give an exact location.
True.
And could you tell if somebody was walking around a car with the phone? Would you be able to tell that?
No.
So it'd be your testimony that this phone, 9807, could be from here to here, correct?
Yes.
And what was the distance?
In his entire testimony, he practically revealed that there is no way to prove YNW Melly's cell phone was inside of that vehicle at the time the crime occurred, which would then even lead to a DNA specialist taking the stand. His job was to go over DNA research on items that were found at the crime scene, including items that were found inside of the Jeep, as this may have been YNW Melly's biggest win so far. As the report would go on to state, DNA analysts confirms YNW Melly's DNA was not found on multiple items that were recovered at the crime scene.
So going to item number 22, the swab from the Gucci sandals. We're able to compare the profile from Mr. Demons as opposed to the profile developed from those sandals.
I did, and he was excluded.
The stain on the front of the t-shirt, item number 23. We're able to compare Mr. Demons' profile to that.
I did a comparison, and he was again excluded.
What about item number 24, the cutting of the stain of the rear of the t-shirt?
After comparisons were done, he was excluded.
Okay, then on item number 25, the swab of the stain from the Air Jordans.
Again, an exclusion.
Going on to item number 26, the swab from the yellow jacket.
An exclusion as well.
And in terms of the item number 27 and 28, the swabs of the Gatorade bottles. What were the results on that?
Those were both exclusions.
As soon as this DNA specialist revealed Melly's DNA not being inside of the vehicle, this is a slam dunk for Melly and his defense team, as the prosecutors already told the jury that YNW Melly was picked up by Fredo Bang after the crime was committed. So with his DNA not showing up on items inside of the crime scene, all YNW Melly and his lawyers need to do is prove that he was picked up by Fredo before the crime happened, and it is a golden ticket to him being innocent. Don't believe me? Here's the reaction to finding out no DNA was in the car.
Thank you, let the report the jury step down. Counsel remain. Call with the defendant and witness. Yes, counsel, I'm sorry. I just figured it was easier if we just let the jury go.
Understood.
Makes sense. Your Honor, may we have this discussion just in case there needs to be some supplementation testimony outside the presence of the
Sure.
For the entire week, YNW Melly was looking more innocent than ever. This would even lead to rappers reacting and sharing support for Melly on social media, even causing Drake to talk about Melly.
A kid like YNW Melly who just has the craziest melodies, pain in his voice, but not afraid to just be like, yeah, sure, I might be this way on road, but in my music, this is what I enjoy doing.
We would then even see later Kodak Black speak on YNW Melly and sharing his favorite memory with him.
Yeah, man, free that boy Melvin, man. Free Melly. Man, stop playing. We not playing like that. Oh, you gonna put
This would even cause Lil Durk to share a reaction to Melly of his favorite moment with him, alongside rapper King Von.
Bust, you got 10 piece. Bust harder than mine. It's me. It's the
However, the reactions would slowly start to fade away, as when more convincing evidence came out, YNW Melly began looking guilty, as it all started with a report of forensic expert in the YNW Melly case explains how he determined it was not a drive-by.
Assignment, which is to determine if this is a drive-by. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done. One is done at a stationary position. At a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in. The one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here, the actually moving in that to create the little bit of a that you see there.
Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned so I'm gonna zoom in on site F.
That man on the stand is Sergeant Williams, a 20-year veteran in his field, highly respected and has all of the accolades to prove it. He wasted no time showing that YNW Melly has a high chance of being guilty in this case. As the next piece of evidence he shared states, YNW Melly is accused to be the one using the firearm in this situation. Sergeant Williams, who said there was an item used 3 times inside of the Jeep, including 17 times outside of the Jeep.
Number, you said 17 outside the car. How many rounds were inside of the car?
3.
And can you exclude the for Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas as coming from outside of the car?
Yes. From the driver's side back seat.
As to the shot that was Christopher Thomas, where did that emanate from?
Driver's side back seat.
Okay. Is it possible for there to have been 2 inside that car?
No.
Why not?
There is no time.
With Sergeant Williams feeling very confident with the evidence he found, the rap lawyer would even break it down.
See what the experts are doing for the prosecution, and what's interesting to me is what the defense is doing when they cross-examine these experts, which is they're essentially highlighting the prosecution's opinion. Rather than try to pick apart holes and say, what about this, what about that? They're saying, oh, this is what you're saying, right? That's a fact? Okay, and they're knocking them down. And they're pinning them down, and they're saying, okay, I'm gonna hold you to this. This is your opinion. You think you know for a fact that came after this person was bet. You think you know for a fact that these came from not a drive-by because of the trajectory, and I know bet. And so what you're gonna see, what I assume, because what is the defense doing? Well, I assume they have experts who they believe are a lot more credible, who have testified a lot more times in cases, who have a lot more research and credibility based on their experience and history in the field, and those experts are going to come on and take the stand, and those experts are going to poke the holes and say, you can't possibly know when this in relation to that. You can't possibly know how. We'll see. But that's what seems like it's setting up for the defense's experts to come in.
With Sergeant Williams doing an amazing job inside of the courtroom, YNW Melly's lawyers knew they had to take the focus off of Melly. So when it was their turn to ask him questions, this would be their first question.
And you are aware that the person that claimed it was a drug is Cortland Henry?
I believe so. I don't know who said that it was a drive-by. I was just asked to say if it was a drive-by.
Okay. And you were aware that when Cortland Henry made this statement that this gentleman was nowhere around? right?
I wasn't part of the initial investigation,
Okay.
so I don't know if that was included in their, Miramar's investigation with that.
Okay. But what you are saying is whoever claimed was lying.
Was incorrect.
YNW Melly's lawyer needed to make it public to the jury once again that Bortlen is the one that lied to the feds.
And I'm driving, ducking for my life, trying to make sure I don't get hit. And you telling me you telling me about some shit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. I'm driving. I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. You know what I'm saying? What I'm gonna be worried about? You know what I'm saying?
I know it's not for you to worry about.
Shit crazy, bro.
But if you tell me it happened there's got to be some evidence there. There's going to be broken glass, just like there's broken glass over here when you guys open the doors and stuff like that. Okay, there's going to be broken glass over there when the windows got out. There's going to be casings from the people at your car. Okay, there's going to be evidence over there. Okay, right now there's nothing. I kind of think I know what happened because I got information.
With YNW Bortlen's name continuing to be brought up inside of the courtroom, it was his time to appear in the courtroom.
Is that poor little Henry?
Yes, sir. He's present.
That you in the back of the
status conference.
Come on up.
And I guess you're already trial the code of no. We're set for October 3rd for trial.
You had a motion pending as well?
Yes, Judge. As the court, when we were here the last time, you let them go to church and stuff, you said about working, you would be subject to seeing the schedule. We filed a schedule for the next couple of months.
I saw that.
Be able to work. And I talked to his probation supervisor. She has no problem with him at all. She said that if he's going to go to work, she'd like anybody has to do, provide an itinerary, where he's going to be, how he's going to get there, how it's going to get done.
As it would be announced, YNW Bortlen, YNW Melly's co-defendant, trial for this case will begin October 2nd, as during his small court hearing, his trial date would be set, but also a few questions would be answered that we have all been waiting for, which could relate to the feds knowing that YNW Melly was the guilty one all along, with the first question being, why did Bortlen receive a bond out of jail but not YNW Melly?
And he was able to negotiate a bond for him because of the charges that he was charged with, because they felt that he wasn't the man, and because of his prior criminal history, which I think was very sparse. So all those things went into whether or not he was going to be given a bond. I think at the time that the bond was being argued, there was the evidence that was being presented at his bond hearing was very difficult to kind of gel together in terms of, as you've seen during the trial, right? So there's a lot of things that are going on in the trial that you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't really gel. Some things are out of whack. And that's what happens at an Arthur hearing when you're moving for bond on this type of charge.
Revealing that the feds may have believed all the way from the start YNW Melly was the guilty one. Mix that with Bortlen not having a legal history, this is how Bortlen received bond. However, the next question is where it gets interesting.
Is it too late for Cortland to plea?
It's like the Justin Bieber song, it's never too late to say sorry, I think. No, I don't think it's too late. It's never too late. I've had individuals been offered pleas but turned them down in the middle of trial. I've had people offered pleas before a verdict came back. So it just depends on the case, depends on the prosecutor, depends on the actual charges. So no, it's never too late for that. He could take a plea in the middle of his case. I don't think that would happen. If he was going to take a plea, if there was going to be a deal, it would be in the middle of Melly's case.